log came off the end of the conveyor, hit me in the head, hit me in the elbow, the hand multiple times.
So now you're smarter.
I don't know about that.
Today on In the Wood Yard, we're making wood again. So I've got some spray paint here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the ends of the logs for the ones that are dry. Like this one right here for sure is dry, this one's dry. I did put some X's on here for my brother, but they're hard to see, but I'm going to put some spray paint on. Mark the dry logs, because we want to run those separately into my trailer or a separate pile, and then we're going to run some of the green stuff, the stuff that's like, oh, the bigger ones, like right here, this is a fresh cut, you can tell. This is going to be wet on the inside, whereas this one will be dry, this one will be dry, this one will be dry. So basically what I'm going to do is mark these so it's easy for them to see, so we know that's one, that's one, that's one, that's one, that's dry, that's dry, this is dry, dry. So those we want to run separately because I can sell those right away, and then the ones that are not dry in the center especially, we're going to run that just into a big pile. So the dry stuff's going to go into the trailer right now, but the little trailer today, and then I'm gonna mark the rest of these so he knows which one we want to take from this pile first though. But so you can see here, these are
That one right there too, maybe.
this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks kind of dry. And if it's not, I can run it off the back. And this one. That'll give us a good start. And one at the top of there. Mainly it's the smaller ones. And some of the bigger ones that you can just tell. Like this one here, you can see how checked this is. That's going to be dry. It might even be partially rotten, but you know it's dry. If it's not, like I say, we just run it off. But there you go. That'll give a good start. We'll start on this pile today. And then the wet ones we just separate. So we're just going to load it up right now, and then we're going to start processing. So it's time to get to work. Put the camera down. We got work to do. So I thought while I was running the processor here, I would kind of talk things through and explain why we do what we do, because I get questions all the time from people like, how come you did that? Why didn't you do this? What went wrong? All that kind of stuff. Generally when we're running, you're going to get logs that fall like that. You can just reach in and flip them around. Now some processors you can't get at the splitting chamber, so that's huge to be able to reach in like that. That's a big thing. But when we're running, each log on average takes anywhere from 45 seconds to 60 seconds to run a complete log through if you don't have any issues. But issues happen. Sometimes you get something with a knot and it'll get caught in a splitter, or something goes wrong. It happens. Unless you get perfect wood, straight as can be, perfect pulls, no knots, no crotches, all that kind of stuff. And it depends on how the log falls in there. Sometimes it'll fall just perfectly as your rounds fall. We do resplits on some of the bigger stuff. As you can see, we just tossed that one in. So we do that once in a while. If we get a bigger chunk, we will throw it back in and resplit it. And it's not because we want to split it down smaller to dry better. I mean, that is part of the reason, but this stuff is pretty much all dry. Now, if you look at the center of that log right there, you can see it's a little darker. I did a moisture test on this, and the 2 to 3 inches around the outside of logs like this were like 15-16%, but the centers were 22-23% moisture content, which isn't terrible considering it's in log form. But this stuff has been standing dead for years, 4, 5, 6 years in some cases, and generally I can tell by looking at the end if it's going to be dry or not. So we're splitting this down, and this is going right into my trailer and then into the truck. I'm going to throw it in a big pile, and for you guys now, for me this is 2 or 3 weeks ago now. This stuff will sit for maybe a month, maybe 2, and it'll all be sold. And the little bit of moisture that's in the center, like I said, if it's in the low 20s, it will dry very fast, and it'll be perfectly fine to burn, because I found that this barkless oak is very close to being ready to burn as it is. And if we get it split and throw it in a pile or in a bin, within a month or 2, it's ready to burn. You could burn it right away, but there's a little bit of moisture, and I like to have the whole thing be dry, not just the outside. And if we get one that's wet, that is more solid, we just kick it out and we throw it into a different pile. But you can see here, the color is pretty much the same in the center there. That's all dry stuff. The flakiness on the outside that is common with red oak when it starts to rot, that powdery stuff, it happens all the time. I consider it fire starter. And in our area where we have oak wilt, there's a lot of that. So people are very used to seeing that. And there's a lot of people that actually request when they order wood from me, they tell me, I want stuff with as little bark as possible because they know it's going to be drier, they know it's going to burn easier. And for me, it dries faster, so we can process it right away and sell it, which for oak is unusual because if you're cutting live green oak trees with bark on, you a lot of times have to wait minimum a year to 2 years for it to dry, depending on the size of your splits, where you're storing it, if it's off the ground, if it's in the shade, if it's in the open. There's so many variables that go with it, but this stuff is good. Here I think there's a little notch there. I'm going to trim this end off. And that's what we do a lot of times. If we see a bad spot, we just trim it off and toss it, and then I think the next chunk is good to go. And we just try to keep things rolling. See how you can reach in there and straighten that out. So easy, so fast, that you really don't have to use the last cut tray very often. And that's that thing that says retract for transport. You see that in the upper left-hand corner there. And I use that sometimes on bigger chunks. But most of the time, if I can ride the clamp, which you're going to see coming up in a little bit here, if I can ride the clamp fairly close to the log, it will stop it from tipping in. You don't have to worry about that at all. But yeah, we're just splitting away here. Things are going. We have the 8-way wedge in, which is what I use most of the time. I find that it does a real good job on most every piece of wood there. You want to get that out of there because you just crush it. And that's something too. If you can't get at your splitting chamber to pull stuff like that out, you're just going to ruin that other piece of wood because you're just going to slam it in there. And here where Tyler's throwing in small pieces for doing resplits. Again, just to knock them down so they're not quite so big. A lot of times we'll raise the wedge up a little bit so just the bottom is getting split and we're getting them into 2 pieces. So yeah, we're just bringing it in, and you can see here, and I'm always looking to my left to see if he's going to be throwing a piece in or if one needs to be tossed back in. Watching to make sure the wedge is the right height so that it's not too high or too low depending on the size of the wood. If you can run your wood fairly consistent in size, you don't really have to touch the wedge hardly at all, which is nice. And we're trying not to produce a lot of real small stuff. And again, like the piece he just threw in there, it wouldn't really have to be resplit. You can see that it's dry just by looking at it. A lot of times we'll throw 2 or 3 pieces in and split them in half again. And most of the stuff is good. Now this one here is like about an 8-incher. This is going to be perfect just the way it is. I find the stuff between 8 and 10 inches you can just ram. You don't really have to do resplits at all. You can see here I'm getting the clamp to be fairly close because you don't want to have a lot of travel between the saw and the clamp coming down onto the log. You want it to be as close as possible because the closer it is, the faster you can go. You save time. Plus, it stops the pieces if you get one that's odd and wants to fall into the splitting chamber. But again, you can see by looking at the center of these logs after the cut is made, if you look at the very butt of it, you can see that it's pretty darn dry. So you can see by the color of it, at least I can tell. The lighter it is, the drier it is. The center sometimes is going to be have a little bit of moisture, but not bad at all. Like I said, I did moisture test a lot of this. Here's a little bit bigger one. And I can't remember here if yeah, you can see I can see on if you look at the piece at the upper top corner there's cracks going all the way in. And here's a bigger one, so we're just going to throw it in and do a resplit. And sometimes the resplits are good, sometimes they're bad. All you do is crush them if there's knots and things. But oh yeah, that's got a little bit of wetness in the center there, but not terrible. And so I think this one we did some resplits on this one. So that's kind of the thing is you want to do them right away, and that way they're done. You don't have to worry about them later. But that's probably like about a 15, 16-inch piece. I'm just guessing this log is. And we find that a lot of the times the bigger ones are the ones that tend to be a little more wet on the inside. And if we were to get a real wet one, we would just kick that out, either have it go off the back of the infeed tray, or we would split it, cut it and split it, and just throw it into the pile that is the stuff that we want to dry longer that's going to be just sitting on the ground, because we're going to do that later on. But what we're trying to run right here in this batch, this first run, is everything is going into the trailer and into the truck because it's stuff that I want to haul back so I can sell it right away. And you can usually tell, if you do enough of this, you can kind of tell what color it is, and if it's cracked vertically, the height of the tree going up, if the ends are real rough as far as the texture of them, if there's a lot of checking, or if it looks like rough cut lumber, and it's not a smooth cut. The smooth stuff generally is going to be what's going to be not the good stuff. A lot of times too, we'll take ones like that, we just throw them out because that'll go for my brother for boiler wood, or we'll just pop them in half, and then if it's a bigger one, we'll chuck it out. But here, the smaller ones like here, that's probably a 6-incher, 7-incher maybe. That stuff's usually really dry. And most of this stuff is pretty darn straight. You can see there's a little crookedness to it, but not terrible. And again, here you can see how close we're running the clamp. I try to keep it fairly close to the wood. I try to bring it back down again so that it doesn't, the log doesn't fall into the splitting chamber. And then the last thing we do, second to last thing, was we cut the cookie off right here. You're going to see a cookie get cut right there. Oh no, this one is long enough to get 2 pieces out of, because I'm looking at the back side to see if there's 16 inches there or not. So this one obviously was big enough. A lot of times we'll cut the cookie off on that last piece, pull that out, and then leave your 16-inch piece to the back side. That way it doesn't fall in on you. So here you can see by the ends of this log, you can see the cracks all the way into the middle. And that is a good thing. That is what you want. And I can see by looking at the piece up in the trough right there that it's very dry. And again, just a little bit bigger one, so we're splitting it down again. Tyler's just putting those in, which is really nice to do that right away. It takes a little extra time, but you get the right size wood and you don't have to worry about it at all. And again, like I said, I like the 8-way just because it does such a good job. Yeah, that's a really nice, solid, dry piece there. Doesn't have any of that powdering on the outside, that rot that's on the outside of a lot of the red oaks. It's solid and it's dry, which is really nice. So yeah, he's just tossing all the chunks back in to be resplit and getting them resplit. And again, obviously, I'm always looking to see if he's going to throw one in or not. And yeah, it's just going really good. Like I said, average piece, if we don't do resplits, is less than a minute. 45, 50 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. If you're doing resplits, you're always going to add an extra 10, 15 seconds because you have to run the ram 2-3 more times. So it's going to always add a little bit more time. You get a piece like this here, sometimes you can leave that most of the time. I'll pull it out of there just because you don't want to have it get jammed and have it get split in half because that'll happen if you get a chunk that is not sitting right. And there's a cookie we cut off. I'll just reach in and toss that to the side. Sometimes we throw that right in the burn pile. Most of the time though, it goes into my brother's trailer and he takes it home and puts it in his boiler or saves it for his boiler. A lot of people have asked me too, what do I do with all the cookies? I used to sell a lot of them. I used to sell a couple $1,000s worth of cookies every year to people that have boilers, and I would sell it pretty cheap. Generally, we just figure out the loose pile, how much is in it. And loose wood generally is 180 cubic feet for a full cord. So we would figure out the trailer, we'd load it up, and I would just say, okay, so it's this much. I think a lot of it I would sell for between $150 and $200 for a full cord of cookies. That's usually what I was getting for it. But then for a couple of years, it was just giving it to Bert for rent, and then he started selling it. So now I'll probably put them in cages, and I will sell it again because there's a market for it. A lot of people like it. There's a little tiny guy, a little 4 or 5 incher, and that stuff's really nice because it's super dry. It's just bone dry when you split it. And again, there I try to have those so that the wedge is high enough that you get a single split on those, and then the bigger ones you try to get it so that you're getting 4, 5, 6 splits on it depending on where the wedge rides. But I can see here the stuff is all really nice and dry. The barkless oak is fantastic. I love having it. I love getting it because I can turn it around so fast. Whereas if you're cutting green timber, live trees with bark on, like I said before, you're talking minimum a year to 2 years, depending on the size of your splits and how you store it. But this stuff is ready to go, which is awesome. And someday we'll run out of it because the oak wilt will have killed off most of the trees that are susceptible to it, where the trees are together, and one of them will get it, and eventually it spreads to all of them. It's a slow death. I have found you'll see a tree that, you'll have some death on it, and then the next year a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then all of a sudden, after 3-4 years of pieces of it dying off, then you'll see that there's no new growth. And then you'll see that, a year or two later, the bark's falling off, and then once the bark is completely off, it'll stand there dead.
for 2 or 3 years, and eventually the roots rot away, and the tree is no longer safe to try to have standing, because it'll fall over on you. It doesn't take much for it to go down. And then if it can be hung up off the ground, it'll last a long time. But if it's on the ground, it'll start to rot. And oak is a lot like cedar and locust, that it lasts quite a long time. Whereas if you get stuff like aspen or poplar or birch or cottonwood, any of the hardwoods that are softer and wetter, they will rot real fast. But oak will last quite a long time. Here you can see the end there. You see that white flaky stuff on the outside there? That is, I don't know if it's considered a wet rot or a dry rot, but it's starting to rot from the outside because it's dry. And it makes great firewood. Some people will turn their nose up to it, but I think it's awesome stuff. It's a nice fire starter. And you'll get sections like you just saw that part of it didn't even have any on it. I think you look at the end of this, see there's really none on that one. So there are people I've seen that are like, oh, that's no good. You can't burn that because it's not as good wood. Well, it's very good wood. But yeah, you're going to lose a little bit to the outside there. But it still burns great, and it's still good firewood. And in our area, because it's so prevalent with the oak wilt, people just know that that's what it is. And I have a lot of my customers that will ask for barkless oak because they really like it, because they know it burns so well. Here you can see that one's got a little bit of rot on it. And again, you can see how the clamp, I'm riding it fairly close. I try not to go up too high with it. You can see I just go up just enough to get it out of there. And that's something you develop in a rhythm when you're cutting. See the cracks that run all the way to the center? That's what you like to see. And then the bar also, you don't want that to go up really high so you're not going the full distance. And it's just closer to the wood. I must be doing a resplit that it's sitting in. Yeah, probably. But I tried not to put a lot of the footage in there with the resplits because it's resplits. It's not that interesting. I thought I was going to try to have more of this in there so you can see what's actually happening with the cuts and then the splits as it happens. That push plate that's right in the bottom part of the frame you're seeing there, that is your log stop. Here, I'm cutting a cookie off again. It's what you ram the log into, and then it retracts as your cut is happening so the log can then fall in. Let's bring in another one. This one's got a little crookedness to it. Now watch what happens. See how it hits the shroud there that covers the saw? And I'm trying to push it over, but it's got such a banana shape to it, such a crescent, I couldn't get it to roll. So now I back it off to the far side. Now I'm going to go back there. I'm going to try to roll the log over, and you can see, if you look, how crooked that is. And if you get a really big log, sometimes I have to climb up there with the cant hook, or even take the tractor and give it a spin around. So you want it to clear, obviously, because it's got so much curve to it. And I'm cutting a crooked end off here. It was a crooked cut because that's going to be an issue. So sometimes I just square off the ends. But then once you get that cut off, you can see the curve's not an issue anymore. And eventually you can keep bringing the log in, keep feeding it in, and because the curve is a gradual one, it's not really an issue. There you got a big knot there, and sometimes I'll drop those in and I'll spin those around so you get a better split, but that one it splits just fine. And then again here I'm bringing the clamp down fairly close so that it doesn't tip in on you, and then the last one again too, if it's the right size you can just let it fall right in. Here's a small little guy, and I think on the end here, this is one, if I remember right, I cut the end off. I'll spin it around, so this is probably like a 6-inch piece. Again, dry as can be, and I probably raise the wedge up there so I'm getting a single split on it, or just 3 or 4 splits on it, depending on how it falls into the splitting chamber and then going through the wedge. But again, here, these are nice size one. Again, trying to keep the saw and the clamp fairly close. And you can see as it twists and turns, that log goes from left to right, depending on how the log is when it goes into the trough up above as the infeed's coming in. You can see there's a curve to it there. And then I think I spin this around. Yeah, I ran this one out. I saw that fork on the top, and then watch what I do. I run this one through, and now it's small enough, I pull it down, and I'm going to spin it around and shove it back in, and then cut that off. And if you get a small one, you can do that. And I'm trying to line up the back end so that it's at the 16 inches, and then I'll pull that out, piece I just cut off, and then just drop that in and then split it. So again, here comes another small one. It's probably about an 8-incher. It's got a little hump on it there, so you can see why the clamp, it'll kind of hold that in. Again, most of that is really dry. The center might look wet to you guys, but again, I did moisture test on it, and it's in the low 20s, 22, 23%. So once you get it cut and split, it's going to be just fine. There's a kind of a knot there. I can't remember if I cut this off or if I just run this through. I must have just run it through. Maybe I think I might spin it around in the splitting chamber. I can't remember. Yeah, I did. I edited that out. I reached in and turned it around so that the knot was to the back side, so the good side goes in first. That was just a short stroke there. I thought it was going to cut all the way through, but it didn't. And then again, I keep the clamp fairly close. And this one could probably just drop in. I don't think I cut a couple. Yeah, and if I'm 17 inches, I'm okay. If it's 15 inches, I'm okay. What people don't want is long ones, because most of the people I'm selling to are putting it into a rack in their garage or in the side of the garage, the front of the garage, and they don't want a log sticking out 3-4 inches from the rest of them. They don't want any 20, 21, 22 inches for the most part. I know if you guys are selling boiler wood, you can go 20, 21, 22, 24 inches, no big deal. But the people I'm selling to, the vast majority, it's going into a wood rack in the garage, and they don't want long pieces sticking out that they're going to hit their car door on or run into it when they walk past the pile. They want them to fit in fairly even, and they'd rather have it be a little short than a little long. So I try not to have any that are over 17, 18s pushing it. Not the end of the world, but for sure not 19, 20, 21 inches. They just don't want that. So anyway, we're cutting a cookie off here, and we're going to go to town. We're going to speed this up now. We're going to do some production.
Eric's leaving. He's got the chunks in his truck that we threw off, and then we threw this stuff to the side because as we were splitting, we had a bunch of stuff that was dry. So if we saw a dry log, which there was a few that we thought were going to be wet, but they're dry, we just threw them into this pile. And then this is most of the stuff that was wet, that's bigger, that needs to be dried more. And a lot of this stuff is wet all the way through, and some of it is only halfway wet. So we put all that here, and then this is the bunch we did the other day. And then we did my truck and trailers full, and that's all dry stuff. I'll show you that. So we got a pretty good bunch done. We might not have a whole semi-load done, but probably close. Tyler has been sweating because he's been throwing logs all day. But we got this one left. There's a little bit off the end, but there's some dry stuff over there. We finished this middle one right here. Then there's some bigger stuff here that we left. So you got a little workout today, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit. A little sore elbow, sore head.
When he was loading the trailer, what happened?
Stacking in the trailer. And
stacked the trailer. First time it's ever been stacked in there. What happened?
Log came off the end of the conveyor, hit me in the head, hit me in the elbow, the hand multiple times.
So now you're smarter.
I don't know about that. It's the worst job I've ever had.
Yeah. But yeah, the truck and trailer are both loaded, so we're going to take that back and dump that. You'll see that next. Sun's starting to go down, end of the day here, and we had enough for one day because we've got a little hydraulic leak. We got to tighten something up, so we got to fix that. So we decided just to quit. We got enough done. But it's a beautiful day. It's got to be 35 degrees.
Yeah.
Not very much wind here, just a little breeze. Beautiful day. Tomorrow's supposed to be 50, so I'm coming back tomorrow. right now we're gonna head home and we're gonna go dump the load off, and then we'll be done for the day. So what's happening? We're gonna make a 1.5 hour ride. So he'll probably be sleeping all the way home.
Maybe.
Give you your blankie and nook.